Welcome to this explainer. You know, we've all heard those classic ghost stories around campfires, right? Or seen them totally blown out of proportion in movies. But today, we're diving straight into the documented, terrifying reality of 112 Ocean Avenue. We're going to look closely at the verified facts, the harrowing timelines, and the profound, enduring mysteries surrounding what is, literally, considered America's most haunted house. Forget the Hollywood embellishments, because the real story is so much darker.
Okay, let's just dive right into this by starting exactly at 3:15 a.m. on November 13th, 1974. Picture this, a quiet, peaceful New York town where everyone knows their neighbors. The streets are completely silent. But at this precise moment, a horrific massacre began, one that forever changed the history of Amityville and sparked a paranormal mystery that is still terrifying people to this day.
So late that November night, the oldest son of the family, Butch DeFeo, murdered his parents and 4 siblings right in their beds. The absolute brutality of it shocked the entire nation. Now, when he was brought in and confessed to the police, he offered this really chilling excuse. He said his brain didn't want to do it, but his body was forced to by dark, disembodied voices echoing through the walls of the house, basically commanding him to do the unthinkable.
Part 1. The 1974 Bloodbath.
Well, as you can imagine, the authorities weren't exactly buying the whole supernatural voices story. The court completely dismissed his claims, totally ruled out insanity, and sentenced Butch to life in prison. But let's take a step back for a second and look at the sheer contrast of this property's history. For decades, this massive home, built around 1924, was basically a portrait of suburban peace. Families lived there happily with absolutely no issues. Then, abruptly, the DeFeo murders just severed that peaceful history forever. It left a blood-stained house completely empty, transforming what was an idyllic estate into the epicenter of a nightmare.
Part 2. 28 Days of Terror.
So the house sat vacant, just carrying its dark history in silence, right up until December 1975. Enter George and Kathy Lutz. They thought they had secured an incredible investment, a massive dream home for them and their 3 young kids at an unbelievable price. But man, that dream violently clashed with reality. They were completely unaware of the gruesome history inside their new bedrooms. Instead of the warmth of a new family home, they were immediately greeted by this bone-chilling cold that totally defied logic, and a pungent, rotting smell of decay, kind of like raw sewage that just lingered no matter how hard they scrub.
And the escalation of terror here wasn't gradual at all. It was rapid and deeply unsettling. Day 1 introduced those freezing temperatures and inexplicable foul smells. By day 7, the psychological terror really began to take root. Their youngest daughter, Missy, started speaking to an invisible friend named Jody, who she claimed was playing with her and giving her instructions. The tension inside the home just continued to build relentlessly, until day 28, when the family hit an absolute breaking point.
During those 28 days, the isolation and dread were just suffocating. The house felt alive, practically vibrating with unseen, malicious entities. I mean, imagine the pure terror of standing in your own home as heavy doors and windows slammed shut completely on their own. No breeze, no nothing. Kathy would be standing alone in the kitchen and distinctly, physically feel unseen children running right past her. And this wasn't just some fleeting feeling. It was accompanied by the clear, unmistakable sounds of heavy breathing and footsteps echoing through the halls. It honestly felt to them like the walls themselves were crowded with these entities.
And then, the psychological dread became visually horrifying. One night, around 2 in the morning, their young son Daniel got out of bed to wash his hands. As he stood in the bathroom, he encountered a terrifying, completely inhuman figure standing right next to him in the dark. The sheer shock of this demonic entity sent him running back to his room in an absolute panic. He was completely terrified of the very place he was supposed to feel safe.
Part 3. The Midnight Escape.
The events of that 28th night just crossed an unforgivable line. It became so extreme that the family couldn't endure another second. George and Kathy grabbed their children and fled for their lives in the middle of the night. In their absolute blinding panic, they abandoned everything, literally everything. They left behind expensive jewelry, all their cash, their everyday clothes, and their entire life savings tied up in the property. They didn't even stop to pack a bag or hit the switches. The house lights were left burning into the night as they drove away forever.
Seriously, imagine spending all your hard-earned money on a dream home, only to run away with absolutely nothing but the clothes on your back. It really proves the sheer reality of their fear. They had poured their life savings into this mansion as a solid investment for their family's future. Yet the terror was so profound, so deeply traumatizing, that they never returned to the property to claim a single belonging. They literally walked away from financial stability just to stay alive.
Part 4. The Ghost Boy Evidence. Now, because of this frantic, highly publicized escape, critics naturally suspected a hoax. I mean, people thought the Lutzes just made it all up for a quick payout or some media attention. This prompted the famous paranormal investigators, the Warrens, to step in and find out what was actually going on. Stepping into a home that most wouldn't even dare enter, they operated super methodically. First, they set up cameras throughout the unlit, pitch-black hallways. Second, they aimed to capture raw photographic evidence of the environment. And third, they analyzed any captured anomalies against the known, documented history of the property.
And what their cameras captured, it ultimately silenced the loudest critics. In the pitch black, one of the photographs captured the glowing face of a young boy peering out from a doorway. What makes this discovery so absolutely chilling is that the face wasn't just some random trick of the light. No, it was the exact spitting image of one of the murdered DeFeo children.
Based on this horrifying evidence and their time in the house, the Warrens came to some really severe conclusions. They confirmed the Lutz family was absolutely not lying about their experiences. They identified a severe demonic presence that they believed was tied directly to the 1974 murders. They warned the public that the property was incredibly dangerous, and they literally begged for the house to be restricted from the public permanently, fearing for the safety of anyone who stepped inside.
Part 5. A Dark Legacy. But despite the intense, desperate warnings from experienced investigators, the public's morbid curiosity won out, and those warnings were completely ignored. Another family actually moved into the house a few years later. You'd think they'd be prepared, right? Well, they lasted a mere 15 days. Only 15 days before they too ran away in terror, reportedly chased out by the ghost of a little girl.
And this story doesn't just end in the 70s or 80s. In a wild twist of real estate, the house recently sold again for a staggering $1.43 million. I mean, you really have to wonder who drops over $1 million on America's most haunted murder house. What's even more fascinating is that the current owners completely refuse to speak to the media. They maintain absolute silence about what goes on inside.
So, that leaves us with a chilling final thought to wrap up this explainer. What are the current owners experiencing right now behind those locked doors? It forces us to ask a truly terrifying question. You can empty a house of its furniture, and you can empty it of its people, but can you ever really force out the spirits waiting just beneath the floorboards?